Hey everybody, I wanted to tell you about a little side quest I did over the last year to upgrade my servers. Um, I had two of them. This is the primary old server that I was working with, and they needed an upgrade. So, what was the process I went through? What did I settle on? And what is my end result? This is another picture of my old server. There was another one that was primarily a storage server that was like a AMD Phenom 2 or something like that, so really old, was not a fast CPU, had lots of storage. This was my main server though, and I use this mostly for my development work. I have a PC, which I use for gaming, and it's kind of a terminal to my main server. And I do most of my development work on that main server, so it stays up and gives me a nice stable development environment, even if my desktop PC is being mucked with because I have to play games. So it had two CPUs, some nice cooling, good amount of storage, even had some Tesla accelerators in there. And it sat in this nice little case by my equipment rack that was good quiet, good cooling, everything like that. I did really like the dual CPUs. You can see them here. They're Xeon E5 2687Ws, lots of cores, and I had two of them combined with lots of RAM and some nice Noctua coolers. It was pretty good. Bonus point was that it warmed my cat's butt, and he really loved this. I mean, look at his goofy face. He's just thrilled. I even tried putting some cat YouTube TV on that little monitor, but he wasn't quite attached to that. A big con, though, of this server was it wasn't in my nice server cabinet, and I really wanted it in my server cabinet. Not just because I wanted to upgrade it, but it was on the side, which was kind of strange. And I mean, look at the server cabinet; it has nice wood accents, place to put the wireless devices on the top. I can even put candles on it. Looks wonderful. Love the aesthetic. So, can I get my computer in there? So I did like a bunch of stuff about my server, but the downside was it just did not support recent instruction sets. And of course, it was power hungry. The recent instruction sets thing was surprising. I thought I would be able to use it as a server for longer than I was able to. Unfortunately, a lot of things just stopped supporting or assumed certain instruction sets were there that were not on that CPU, even if during the compilation process they seemed to properly check that those instruction sets weren't there and they tried to do the right thing. Many times that just did not seem to work or wasn't properly implemented. The other thing was it did use actually a lot of power. It was a rather old server, so it did, even on idle, use a lot more power than I wanted. And I had recently upgraded my desktop to something moderate just for playing games, and this server was no longer really any faster than my desktop. Didn't offer any more CPU cores than my desktop, just a lot more RAM. But the big one also was I just didn't like the aesthetic of it not being in my equipment rack. So what did I do? Well, the challenge with the equipment rack is that it's actually an audio equipment rack. It's not a server rack, so it's short. Um, I had to find a server that worked for this, and there were plenty of options, but this is the option I went with. It's from unixsurplus.com. I bought it from eBay for this nice fortuitous price, and it came like you see below. On the left, we see that hard drive tray, and it's over the air inlet for the server, which goes to the server CPU, RAM, and PCI Express slots. It came with this plastic air diverter, which you see on the right. It didn't come with those PCI Express cards, but this is the only picture I had of that plastic air diverter available. And it worked great out of the box. It did exactly what the company said it was going to do. It was packaged nicely. As far as I could tell, it was all brand new, well-assembled components. I didn't have huge issues with it, except while it was quite noisy. It's using these server fans, which were very loud, and it kept it very cool, but it was very loud. So first things first is I looked to the company that made Brown Cool Noctua to solve my problems with fans, as always. And here you see the first upgrade I did to it, which was to replace these black server fans, which you can see one in the middle, with some Noctua server fans. Unfortunately, this did not quite cool it enough. It still got too hot during normal use and during stress testing, especially, for it to work. With one of the normal fans, it worked okay. It actually worked mostly fine, except for, again, the noise. With just one of the fans instead of 5 of them, the noise was a lot less, but it was still too noisy for my liking. So what did I do was really two things. One, when this 2U server came, it came with a 1U heatsink, and it could fit the 2U heatsink. So first thing I did was order a 2U heatsink and stick it in there. This pretty much brought it to a usable state, but with that one server fan, it was still a bit noisy. And I did note that the cooling air direction with that plastic director was not very good. So I endeavored to 3D print one, and I made a quick prototype. This didn't take me too long to print or design. This is pretty much, I think, just a loft of 3 profiles that I quickly measured and then did in VOS mode on the 3D printer. And it looked something like on the right. I literally had to cut into this plastic to make it fit just to get it to test and work, but it did. So with that in mind, I fancied up the design a bit. I added some strengthening spars to it, some holes to divert some of the air to other components that needed some light cooling, and some other curvature to have it avoid some of the existing components that were part of it. And here you can see the 5 Noctua fans professionally taped in place that I ended up using. And on the right, you can see those bits that avoided components that I had installed. I didn't quite get it right the second try, but this is a 3D printer. Why do things once when you can do it many times? And I ended up updating the model a bit to avoid those components entirely. And you can see that on the left. Once it was installed, it fit under the hard drive tray, directed the air directly and very effectively towards the CPU. And this is what I've been running with for a year. This is my main compilation and development server. It's working continuously throughout the year. And it's been great. It's been very quiet. It's quieter than my desktop, which is right next to me, and my server's a bit farther away. It fits in the rack nicely, and it's been nice and cool for the entire usage of the server. I've been super happy with the end result. I took a bit to get there, to get it upgraded, some 3D printing, but very happy. There was one small addition I did after the fact, which was carefully stuffed some noise dampening foam around the server, nicely separated for heat dissipation from the server with an excess heat sink. And yeah, this actually worked great as well. This cut out a bit more of the audio. And yeah, that's in the end all I did to get my server up and running. Very happy with the end results. Feel free to ask me questions. Until next time, everybody, have a good rest of your day.